Hi everyone. So in this session, I'm going to discuss base test class. What is the means of base test class? What is a base test class? So last time we have seen how we can create a test cases, how we can define our test class. But now today I'm going to discuss how we can define base test class and what is a base test class and when we need to define base test class. You have seen last time we have created one test demo class. In that test demo class, we are writing the script for testing our browser. Okay, let's first understand what is the base test class and why we need base test class. So suppose you are writing a script for testing any application. Suppose we have this application saucerdemo.com. I want to test login functionality of this application. I need to write one script for login activity. I want to write a test script for login activity. But before going to execute the test case for validating the login activity, first of all, what we need to do? First of all, we need to launch a browser and load a page in the browser. And then we need to execute this test activity that we are using for login validation. Similar, suppose if you want to execute any other test case. So this task is a common task. Launching a browser and loading a web page into the browser. Then we are executing other test cases. So this task is a common task. That task may be need for multiple test classes. For multiple test classes require same task. If multiple test classes require similar activity required to execute, so what we need to do? So we're not required to write same code every time. So we need to execute this code for multiple classes. This code is a common code. So for that, we are defining one base test class. Base test class is nothing. Base test class we can say is the class which contains common logic. Which contains, yes, no, base test class is nothing. We can say base test class is the class where we are placing common requirement, common, yes, no, common testing logic. We can place common testing logic, and in which class you have required, just you can extend base test class into corresponding test class. Let's understand what is the common activity that we need to execute. Suppose, guys, I want to execute one test case, login test case. Suppose I have one login test. Which test? We have login test. This login test case used to validating the login activity. But before going to execute this login activity, we need to launch a browser. So launching a browser and loading a web page, that activity we need to perform before executing this login test case. So here we required launching browser and loading web page. Launching browser and loading web page we need to execute before executing the login test. And this code is a common code across multiple test classes. So that common code we have not required to write across multiple classes in multiple times. So for that, what we are going to do? We are going to define one base class and we are placing that common logic into that base class. If any class which are interested to that logic, so that class just needs to extend. So we can use inheritance here. Yes, no. If any class which require that common logic, that class just extend that class and then can use. And now we need to understand one more thing. Actually, launching browser and loading web page, This activity we need to perform before executing the test case. And once page is loaded, then we need to execute the test case. Once test case is executed successfully, at the end, yes, no, after executing the test case, what we need to do? We need to close the browser. So we need to close browser. So browser we need to close when? Browser we need to close after executing the test case. Suppose we are going to write login test case for validating the login activity. Before executing the login test case, first of all, we need to execute which logic? First of all, we need to execute launching browser and loading web page. So this logic needs to be required to execute before test case. So where we need to place this logic? So for that, testng will provide some test lifecycle method. Suppose if you want to execute any logic before executing the test case. So suppose I have defined here one method like init, and inside this init method, you can place a logic, and here you can place logic. Which logic? The logic needs to be execute before test case. The logic that needs to be executed before test case. So the logic that needs to be executed before test case, inside the init method, we are writing that logic. And this method we need to annotate at the rate before test annotation. So testng will provide one annotation at the rate before test. So the method which are annotating using at the rate before test annotation, that method gets executed before executing the test case. That method gets executed before executing the test case. And then you can define your login test case. So suppose I define one login test, and this is a test case. So you need to annotate this method using @test annotation. So testng will provide one annotation test annotation to mark as your method as a test method. So before test it means this will be executed before the test case. And now we need to execute the logic closing browser. We need to execute the closing browser activity after executing the test case. So after executing the test case, if you want to execute any logic, then we have defined here one more method, suppose tear down. And I want to execute this method after executing the test case. So here we are placing logic needs to be execute after test case. So any logic that needs to be executed after test case, that method you have need to annotate at the rate after test. So that method needs to be executed after test. So here we need to use testng lifecycle. Here we have discussed two lifecycle method, one is the before test and after test. We have several lifecycle methods, those we will discuss later on. But here we need to understand before test and after test. Before test means this will be executed before @test annotated method. And it can be executed multiple times before the test case. And at the rate after, it means a method with this annotation will be executed when all the @test annotated method complete the executions. After executing all the test cases, then this method gets executed. Let's now we define our base test class, and under that base test class, we are placing our common logic. What the common logic that we require to execute across multiple classes, like launching browser and loading a web page. Let's now we try to define. So now we will move to our Eclipse IDE. and Eclipse ID. Let's here we define our base test class. Where we need to define, as earlier we have discussed, whatever test related classes we need to define, we need to place under src test Java folder. So under src test Java, last time we have created one testing package where we are placing our test classes. Let here we create one more package like a base package. And under base package, I am going to place our base test class. So right click on our src test Java. And now here we create one package and I give the package name like base. So base package. Under base package, I am going to create one base test class. So right click on base package and now go to the new, select a class. And here I have given a class name like base test. You can give any name. It is not mandatory. Class name should be base test. Class name can be any, but here we're giving meaningful name which can be understand. This is a base case test class. So here I have created one base test class. What the class name I have given? Base test. Let's under base test class, we are writing our logic. So here what we required? Here we required one WebDriver. So I will declare one WebDriver type variable. WebDriver. Let's we declare WebDriver, and we required one variable which contain browser information, which browser you want to launch. So I declare one browser, I give the value as a edge, and now I declare one more variable, public string URL, in which we are going to store URL. So what URL, which URL we want to? I want to open this URL. So just copy the URL value, paste here, and now, and here we have defined one method, public void like setup method. I define one method setup. Actually, this method I want to execute before executing the test case. Suppose if you want to check login activity, login test you want to execute, but before going to execute login test, we need to launch browser, we need to load a web page. So inside that method, I'm going to place that code that needs to be executed before executing test case. So the logic that needs to be executed before test cases, we can place inside a method, and that method we have need to annotate using before test. Before test. Before test. It means the method that you have annotated before test, that method gets executed before executing the test case. Now let's here what logic we need to write. We need to check which browser you want to open. So here we need to check which browser we need to launch. So if here we first of all write a condition, browser.equals, I'm using equals method, and now which browser? Suppose if you are interested to open Chrome browser, then you need to set up a driver according to ChromeDriver. How we can set up the driver? Set up the driver. We need to set up which driver, guys? Here we need to set up ChromeDriver. Here we need to set up ChromeDriver. How we can set up? Yeah, last time we have already discussed. We have WebDriver Manager class. In this manager class, we need to call ChromeDriver method and call the setup method to set up a ChromeDriver. Once driver is set up, then we need to open the browser. How we can open the browser? So here, which browser we want to open? We want to open ChromeDriver. So WebDriver has to launch a browser. So here we need to create an instance for WebDriver. For which WebDriver? ChromeDriver. So let's here we create ChromeDriver instance. ChromeDriver instance. Let's import this one. import ChromeDriver. Okay. Now we can, if condition is this false, then else if we need to check browser dot equals, and which browser, suppose I want to open Edge browser. So now if you want to Edge browser, so we need to set up the driver for which browser? We need to set up the EdgeDriver. So how we can set up? Using WebDriver Manager service. So WebDriver Manager dot EdgeDriver dot setup method. Then open the browser. Open the browser. WebDriver equal to new EdgeDriver. We need to write EdgeDriver. Okay. If this condition is also false, then we checking. Here we writing a code for 3 browser. So based on requirement, you can write for other browser also. Here we checking Firefox. If your browser value is Firefox, then we need to set up, set up the Firefox driver using WebDriver Manager dot, we have Firefox driver dot setup method, and then we need to open the browser. How we can open the browser? Which browser? Firefox. So WebDriver equal to new Firefox driver. Okay, once browser is launched, then what is the next? We need to load a new web page. So how we can load a new web page? To load a new web page in the browser, in a WebDriver, we have one method, get method. So whenever you want to load a new web page in the current browser window, then you can use a get method of a WebDriver. So WebDriver has one method, get method. Using get method of WebDriver, we can load a web page in the current browser window. So you can pass the URL, which page you want to load in the current browser window, that page URL you can pass. And once page is loaded, you can check it, guys. Now page is loaded. So here you're writing a script for loading a web page. Then what you need? Then you need to write your test case to perform login activity or any test cases based on your requirement. So in this class, actually test case is a specific as per your requirement. Under base test class, we are writing only common logic. So test case can be any as per your requirement, but launching browser, loading a web page, and closing browser, this code is a common code. So now we have placed this code that needs to be executed before executing the test case. And now this code is also common code that needs to be executed after executing the test case. So here in our Eclipse ID, now we move to our Eclipse ID. So here we define one more method. After that, we define one more method, public void. Tear, I give the method name like tear down method, tear down. Inside this method, let's okay, where we have declared this method, just check. Okay, our method close from where? This is our method. Okay, here we need to define one more method, public void tear down method. And now what we need to do? Here we want to close the browser. If you want to close the browser, then what you need to do? If you want to close the browser, so in WebDriver we have one method, close method. So you can check here on WebDriver dot, you can call a close. So close method, what does? Close method close the current window. If you want to close the current window, you can call the close method. So close method close the browser. And now this code needs to be executed after executing the test case. So now we have annotated this method at the rate after test annotation. So the method that you have annotated at the rate after test, that method gets executed after executing the test case. Now we have created our base test class. Now base test class is ready. Now I'm going to write one test case. So I'm going to test a browser title. So you can check here, whatever browser we have launched, I want to check yes or no. In the browser, which page we have loaded, I want to check the title. That title is correct or not correct. Okay, so I'm going to write a test case. So whatever test cases we need to define, that I'm going to define under testing package. Base package contain only base test classes, and testing package contain all testing classes. So under testing package, I'm going to create one test class. I give the class name like browser title tester. I give the browser title tester. Now finish that. Now under this test class, I'm going to define one test case, public void title tester. Okay, I give the method name like title tester. Here I'm going to test title of a web page. So title test method I've defined here now. Okay, but before check the title, yes, no, what you need to do, you need to load a web page, yes, no. You need to launch a browser and you need to load a web page in a browser. That code you required here before executing this test case. So this is a test case, so you have need to annotate this method as a test annotation. So now whatever logic you need to execute launching browser, loading a web page, that logic we have placed under which class? Base test class. So now you have not required to rewrite once again, just you can extend which class? Base test class. If you want to reuse that logic in this class also, what you need to do? Just you need to extend. Once you extend, whatever features are available in base test class, all those came in your class. Now, what is your requirement? Once page is loaded, you can check it. Suppose once this page is loaded, what you need to fetch? You need to fetch the title of the page. How we can fetch the title? So using WebDriver, we can represent the browser, yes, no? So you can check it. In WebDriver, we have one method, get title. You can check it. Get title method, what does it? Return the title of the current page. Whatever current page you have loaded, whatever page you have loaded in a browser, if you want to retrieve the title of the current web page, then you can use get title method of WebDriver. WebDriver has one method get title which return the title. So now whatever you get the title, that is actual title. So I will declare one variable in which we are storing. Okay, so this is your actual title. So what you are expecting once page is loaded? Once page is loaded, then I'm expecting swag lab title. So I will declare under this test case one expected result. What you are expecting? In the test cases, what we are testing? We are testing actual result and expected result. What actual result you got it and what you are expecting. If actual result and expected result are matched, then we can say your test case is passed. But next question, how we can compare your actual result and expected result? So if you want to compare actual result and expected result, whether it's matching or not matching, for that TestNG will provide one concept, assertion concept. What is assertion? Assertion is nothing in TestNG. It just is a classes. It's a special classes you can call. Assertion is nothing, is a special classes. which provides several static methods to check, to validate expected result with actual result, to compare actual result with expected result. If your expected result is matched with your actual result, then it will pass your test case, otherwise it will fail your test cases. So how we can use assertion? We have let's understand. In the test engine, we have one class assertion. You can check assert class. You can check assert. You can check assert. Assert class is available in test engine. You can check here. Assertion is a class. This class will provide several static methods. Let's we discuss here one, and later on we will discuss several methods. Assert is a class which provides several static methods that used to compare actual result with expected result. Static method we can call directly using the class name. What is the class name? Assert. In this assert class, we have one static method assert equals. You can check here. Assert equal. Assert equal, this is the overloaded method. It will take two parameters, actual and expected. If actual value, actual result is similar to the expected result, then it will pass your test case, otherwise it will fail your test case. So whenever you want to compare actual result with expected result, then you can use assert equals. Assert is a class and assert equal is a static method. Static method you can call using class name. So here we mention class name and assert equals. In the assert equals, you can pass two parameters. Your first parameter is the actual value. In the second parameter, you can pass expected value. If actual value is matched with expected value, then it will pass the test case. Otherwise, it will fail the test case. Let's check here. So what is the actual value contain actual title and expected title contain your expected title value. Let's redefine it. Let's now save and run your test case. Just click here in this run, and now you can check here. You can check in the console first. It launching your browser. It will take little bit time to launch a browser. Now you can check here. Driver is successfully loaded. And now you can check here. One test case is passed and one is failed. Sorry. How many? Sorry. Total test case is 1 and pass test case 1 and failed test case 0. So your test case is passed. And now if you want to check also in the console, if you want to print, you can print the actual title value. So your actual title, what you want to print? You want to print actual title. So once page is loaded, actual title plus actual title. Okay. So let's now execute this test case first. Execute the test case and check here. Yeah, now browser is successfully, you can check it, browser is launched. And now it will match the test cases. Now your test case is passed. And you can check here, what is the title? Swag Labs, actual value. And now here actual value is matches with expected value, then your test case is passed. If suppose you're expecting something different, you can check here. I'm expecting swag. Now if you run this test case, what happened? You can check here. Now you can check here. Your WebDriver is started. Now your application is running. Now you can check here. You can check here. How many test cases you have? 1. But how many test cases passed? 0. What is it? How many test cases fail? Now test case is failed. Now your test case is failed. You can check here. Your test case is failed. Here you can check here. What the color? Red color is showing. It's not showing green color. If test case is passed, then it's showing in green color. Now your test case is failed because your expected and actual result is not matching. Now you can check here if expected result and actual result is matched. Now if you run it, you can check once again. And now you can check here, browser is started. And now you can check the test. You can check here how many test cases you have written, 1 test cases, and that test case is passed. So in this way, you can check here in browser title tester class, just you write a test, 1 test case, but in this test case, you can check here, whatever logic is launching browser, loading a web page we have required, we not required to write here. Just be writing your main test logic. Whatever common logic we have required, so that common logic we have defined in one class, that class we can call as a base test class. So base test class is nothing, is a class which contain common logic which are required among multiple classes. I hope it's clear. Thank you.